Hello again on the UK edition. Now, London's quite a city for surprises, isn't it? But this particular exhibit at the Tate Modern is quite a surprise and quite a statement.
A Danish art collective is swinging into London's Tate Modern, carrying with them a unique message of unity and an aim to challenge social apathy. The Danish art collective Superflex has unveiled its new large-scale interactive installation as part of the museum's third annual Hyundai Commission. It includes this hypnotic pendulum and an orange line connecting several three-seated swings that weave through the hall.
What is actually probably the most exciting thing about doing something for us here is because we do something in the institution, we do it outside as well. So Tate is a designated street, which is interesting because it's like in between the museum play world and the public space.
This is a remarkable rendering of an artistic sense of gravity.
We are trying to see if we are able to change the course of our planet. And we can maybe do that with all of us jointly, setting things into motion. How much gravity can we create? And we were fascinated about this old experiment of what happens if 1 million people jump off the chair. What are we then able to, create a change or challenge the path that the planet is taking?
Tate Modern is open as always to the boldest of experiments.
Political and playful is two of the things that you could say about them, and this work very much presents some of the issues of our day, personally how we deal with everyday society, but then climate change, currency, economy, all of these things are referenced in the work, but in a gentle and accessible way, and also you can have a serious thought, but you can have fun as well.
With Sanjay Suri in London, this is Vaibhav Verma for News 18.
Not many of us go to exhibitions, sadly, but we all go shopping, and then that question arises on one's own mind or asked by someone else, what's on your mind? And what if you don't know, as we often don't? And then again, what if the subconscious knows? And yet again, how do you know what that knows? Well, there just might be a way.
eBay has teamed up with online art gallery Saatchi Art to create a high-tech shopping experience that uses neuroscience to inspire purchases. Trailing the art of shopping, a new high-tech shopping experience that uses art and neuroscience. It works using EEG or electrocephalography headsets that monitors users' neurological responses. They then enter a so-called inspiration zone that's filled with 10 modern artworks carefully selected by Saatchi Art.
About half of us are so-called shoppy cats, kind of self-confessed, follow-the-crowd shoppers. We shop for trends, we shop just like other people, we buy what everybody else is buying. The other half of us are inspired shoppers, and we shop more personally. We are more thoughtful, we're more individual in the way we shop. And so we've created a space, an experimental shopping space that's all about encouraging those shoppy cats among us to shop more thoughtfully, more personally, to step outside of our comfort zone and into the inspiration zone.
Users' movements were tracked. Each artwork is intended to provoke moments of creativity and inspiration. It's claimed to be the world's first subconscious shopping experience.
The funniest thing was one of them that came up was a PlayStation 4, and that is actually what I wanted. So maybe that was something subconscious that eBay, tracked my brain and found out. But yeah, everything I wanted was on there, pretty much so.
It was stuff that does make sense to me, but if someone was to ask me, like, what do you need to buy, it wouldn't come up straight away. But there were some boots that, like, I basically have bought recently. There was loads of outdoorsy stuff, which is what I'm really into, but not what I would think I was necessarily into.
With Sanjay Suri in London, this is Edwin Thomas for News 18.
Does that sort of thing work if you order online and have delivered to your door? Delivered how? Well, what are drones for? You've had drones delivering medical supplies in Bangalore in India, and now Switzerland is trying to catch up.
Everything from toothbrushes to smartphones are being delivered by drones as part of a pilot project, the first of its kind over a densely populated area. The pilot being held in Zurich, Switzerland, will get underway this autumn enabling deliveries of small packages to waiting delivery vans up to 10 miles away.
The key thing about technology like this is how do you integrate it into today's world, right? And today's world wasn't built with a system like this in mind. We don't believe that drones will be delivering packages to people's homes in an urban environment. We think we need to find some other ways. And one of those ways is that you deliver it to a van, and a van driver takes you to the final destination. So the customer doesn't change anything in their user behavior. They do exactly the same thing they used to do. They just get the benefit of a much faster delivery.
The first question on everyone's mind is, what if one of these drones lands on your head?
It weighs 10 kilos, approximately 10 kilos, and of course a potential payload of up to 2 kilos. So we're talking about roughly 11.5 kilos, but when it's coming down very, very gently, once again, there is ample time to evade and to get out of the way.
Drones will of course find it difficult to deliver to the door, and this supply system is backed at the last stage by a network of vans that the drones deliver to.
Equipped our vans with electronic systems also on the roof of the van, and this makes it feasible that the drone is able to land autonomous. The driver can take over the parcel box and can do the last mile and deliver the parcel to the end customer.
With Sanjay Suri in London, this is Edwin Thomas for News 18.
And what if you get into a much bigger drone and take off yourself? Not an impossible idea. The idea has taken off already in Dubai, even if there are no passengers on board at the moment.
The future of transport has been demonstrated in the form of a driverless flying taxi in Dubai. It's the world's first pilotless helicopter, the Volocopter.
It's public transportation for everybody. So you can use it, you can order it, you pay for the trip, and the trip is not much more expensive than with a car in the future. If you build roads, if you build bridges, it's a huge amount. And so it's much more cheaper to have a system. You don't need this big infrastructure.
This now is the pilotless urban air taxi. And if you think it won't work, remember what people said when the Wright brothers launched their first aircraft.
Urban air taxi will contribute an interesting addition to the existing transportation mode mix. There's certain routes that are just extremely beneficial if you can go to the third dimension. For example, if you need to cross the waterway and there is no bridge or no bridge close by, or if you have heavy congestion.
The launch has passed a series of stringent tests to get to where it has so far.
Now we've proven that it works, and it's proven that we get certification because we are safe. Okay, so and for the next 5 years, the trail was announced some month ago from RTA. The aim is to create a safe system. So it's not only about that the aircraft is safe, it's about the air traffic management, how the connection, how are the rules, how maintenance, everything.
With Sanjay Suri in London, this is Weber Verma for News 18.
Well, that's too much technology already. Time for a quick break, and then let's catch up with a woman's best friend, or so they say. Welcome back. You know, the story of diamonds around the world is very much an Indian story. 8 out of every 10 diamonds bought and sold around the world are cut and polished in India. And Indians are right there in the thick of it in the wholesale diamonds business in Antwerp in Belgium. So let's get to Antwerp and hear from someone who knows that diamonds story so well. Christopher, a woman's best friend, Antwerp's best friend, but a little less India's best friend these days. Is that the current story of diamonds?
I think the story of diamonds is that they remain forever. There might be, there's temporary ebbs and flows in the market. I think India is going through one of those right now, but there's no doubting that it's in a very strong position, both in terms of manufacturing and has a rising consumer market. So.
But is that downturn due to domestic policies, which we've seen of late, or is it the global trend?
I can't really speak to the domestic policies. In terms of a global trend, India has at this point 90% of the manufacturing market in terms of volume in hand. They have approximately 60% of the manufacturing market in terms of value.
And the reason for that?
It's grown historically over the past 30, 35 years or longer to the point it is now.
Which is that small diamonds are cut in India and the big diamonds in Antwerp, so that Antwerp has the value and India the volume?
Well, it's simply a division of labor, or it's about labor cost. Quite frankly, if it costs 120 euros, or I'm not sure how many, if it costs 80 euros or 120 per carat in Antwerp, and it costs 10 in India, then everyone can do the math.
Yes, but for that reason, that is the situation.
That is the situation, yes, but also, Antwerp has had a long history. 570. They draw on 570 years of the diamond trade in Antwerp to establish their expertise in craftsmanship, and that is still alive today as much as it ever was. We're very strong in technology here in Antwerp, for cutting technology, for grading technology, for mapping technology of the diamonds, and is very available here. People know how to use that technology very well, and so there's simply a very strong tradition of having highly expert cutters and polishers here in Antwerp. So they built up a reputation. This is where the most highly valuable stones will come to. Of course, because of the labor costs, they can't be, the polishing of the smaller diamonds on a mass scale goes to where it's affordable.
What is it that India brings to this trade? I mean, outside of Antwerp, it could have been anywhere. Why is India emerged as the biggest cutting center?
Well, I think because Indians are everywhere at this point. They're very strong presence in Antwerp, a very strong presence around the world. People, Indian diamond families now send their tentacles out to Hong Kong and New York and Dubai and wherever diamond trade is done.
How dominant are Indians in the business in Antwerp?
I can't really speak to the dominance of the Indian trade itself. We don't really keep figures on what percentage, what
so
companies
figures
doing.
Apart, percentages apart, but clearly they are very visibly a dominant.
They're very visible here. Yes, definitely. Many of the largest, strongest, and most stable companies in Antwerp are Indian companies. They're often based in Antwerp, but they have, they have subsidiaries, or they have, other headquarters in other places. So they'll be based here. They'll be based in Dubai. They'll be based in Hong Kong, wherever it might be.
Yeah, certainly very visibly here in Antwerp. But
right.
What is the annual turnover of this business out of Antwerp?
Well, in 2016, the total turnover. The total trade figures, that's imports and exports, was $48 billion.
$48 billion?
$48 billion.
So Indians would have had a dominant share in that?
Well, let's see. I think last year, direct exports of rough diamonds to India was 70.8 billion, 70.8 million carats, worth $7.4 billion. That's from a total export of 100.8 million carats, and I think
almost 3/4 of the export in value.
Yes, well, direct export. So the direct export to India was about 70% in volume and about 55% in value, but that's only the direct trade. So that doesn't include when Indian companies, for instance, trade to another company somewhere else, and those diamonds eventually make it to India. So if 70% of the volume from Antwerp goes directly to India, then I would say another 15% goes indirectly to India.
Right. So Indians have had a very dominant and continue to have a dominant share in this business. But what's the trend looking like? is this figure of 48 million or 48 billion rather expected to rise in the near future, because diamonds are very sensitive to market trends?
Exactly. Yeah, look, I mean, there were, I'd say from 2012 to 2014, and in the years before that, we saw some really exponential growth in the value. In fact, Antwerp had a record year of trading worth 56.2 billion just in 2014. And we saw that decline in 2015 and then level off at $48 billion in 2016. We expect to be about at that level for this coming year. We can't really say what's going to happen in 2017. But based on global trends, we're expecting to see anywhere from 2 to 5% growth in the long term. In the midterm, there's going to be some volatility, and there has been some volatility, as we've seen with the markets. As you know, it's a global business. It reflects the global market, and in the midterm, there's going to be some volatility. But our trends, suggest that the trade will be gradually on an upward path.
Well, the broad figures suggest that 8 out of 10 diamonds cut and polished in the world are cut and polished in India. Mm-hmm. Do you see India retaining that dominance, or is it facing competition that could perhaps erode that dominance?
I think that's probably a better question for the GJEPC, which is our, the organization in India. So I don't see reason why that would happen. I certainly know there are other polishing centers, cutting and polishing manufacturing centers that are performing better these days.
Better than India?
No, they're better than they were. So there are industries developing in other countries, like Thailand, for instance, in China. They're developing their skills. They're developing their scale. It's not anywhere near the scale of India, but it's a global business. There's some movement, but I can't really speak to. I wouldn't expect India to lose that large amount of market share anytime soon.
Right. And do you see competition emerging to Antwerp as the dominant center?
In terms of trade?
Yes.
Well, there's always competition, but I mean, we've remained the leaders for quite some time now, and there's good reason for that, and because we work hard and very diligently on maintaining that leadership position. We don't take anything for granted, and so in terms of rough trade, we've been working to bring a system of tenders here. So we have a very, very strong tender system where producers around the world, smaller producers, are bringing the rough here. The system is now really established in Antwerp, and it's attractive for the miners and it's attractive for the buyers because the price levels out to a fair market price, and everyone and the goods, bring the goods from all over the world into this place at a fair market price is very attractive.
Yes, North America, has been traditionally the biggest buyer. Now, is that trend changing, and is Indians themselves becoming more buyers than just traders are, or people working in the cutting business?
The Indian consumption is definitely on the rise. It's definitely on the rise. So the United States remains the largest diamond jewelry consumer, hovering right around 50% of the market. That should not change. So it's always going to be the driver of diamond demand, polished demand. And then we have China is the next largest consumer, and India is the third. So that gives you some idea. There was, as I said before the economic crisis, the growth in demand, growth in consumption and diamond consumption was rising exponentially, particularly in China. When I'm talking about like 10 to 12% annually. and India was lagging a little bit behind, but it was growing very strongly. That hit a little bit of a roadblock, a little stumbling block, I should say, where it curtailed a little bit. It fell off, but based on macroeconomic trends and population trends and how wealth is growing in second and third tier countries and second and third tier cities in China and in the larger cities in India, where you have a middle class becoming more prosperous. The diamond demand is there, so I think it's only going to grow.
Are synthetic diamonds going to become a competitive threat to the traditional business?
That depends on who you talk to. I'm not really in a position to say whether there'll be a competitive threat. Are they a presence to be acknowledged? Yes. Will it be a real threat to the industry? That's hard to say. There are people.
Well, if they are cheaper to make, significantly cheaper to buy, and you can't tell the difference, that not even an expert can tell the difference, then why not?
Well, you have to ask what people value. Because they are cheap to make, and because the technology for making them is advancing at exponential rates, they can literally be creating an unlimited supply of synthetic diamonds.
Which look like real diamonds.
Which look like real diamonds, but is that what people want? Do you want something that's an infinite supply? If something is an infinite supply, it's no longer valuable.
Well, then all diamonds go down, not just synthetic or the real. The whole market would go down.
Well, not if we distinguish natural diamonds from synthetic diamonds.
But if you can't distinguish, then?
Well, I think people...
And you can't.
We're counting on people valuing natural diamonds for the rarity, for the preciousness, for the story behind them, for the fact that they took 3 billion years to be created as part of nature, as something as almost as eternal as the earth itself.
But you can wear a synthetic. You can wear a synthetic and tell the same story.
Sure, you could. You could wear a knockoff Gucci and tell the same story as well, but it doesn't mean it's more valuable.
Thank you very much, Christopher, for talking to us.
Okay, thank you.
Are diamonds forever? With artificial diamonds here already and set to go far. Who can say? But we shall see. But anyway, bye for now. See you next weekend.